What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast today. We've got the Battle of Mikes. Battle of the Mikes. Do you go by Mike? Yeah, you must go by Mike as well. I know you go through the same thing I do. And by the way, I'm talking to Mike Schmidtmann, who is a sales guru, years and years of experience. I love bringing on sales experts and people who really know their stuff. I'm very excited to have Mike here. I am a little congested. I'm going to tell everybody who's watching and listening. I've got like this massive head cold. I freaked out because this is the first time I've had a cold in 3 years now that we've been with this COVID stuff. Like I've been hiding, right? So I've been pretty careful. So I came home from a trip and had a cold, but it turned out my wife had the cold first, gave it to me. She got tested before I even got home, negative. I took 2 home tests, negative, but it's like, this is the worst cold I've had. And yeah, I'm out of practice, so I don't even remember what it was like to have a cold. So I was going to ask you, Mike, do you go through the same thing I do where it's Michael or Mike?
Unless it's my mother, it's Mike.
Gotcha. Me too. Or my wife, Michael, right? My wife does the whole full name, Michael Brooks. But yeah, thank you for being here. This is going to be fun. As I said to people listening and watching, we record the live podcast. This is the Elevating IT podcast, recorded live, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and my personal LinkedIn. Make sure you connect and do all those things so that you can get notified that the podcast is going live. I'm going to do a little video magic where I'm going to put Mike on full screen if I have to blow my nose or have a coughing fit. So if you see this happen, that means that I'm behind the scenes blowing my nose, and apologies in advance if I do it and all of a sudden I just sneeze into the microphone. So I apologize for all that. So
no, it's like the Queen of England says, never explain, never complain. So just roll.
Let's do a roll. With that said, I'm going to mute myself and Mike, and we're going to do a little podcast intro and then get the show started.
And now, here's this episode of the Elevating IT podcast, sponsored by Audit.
Welcome to the Elevating IT podcast. My name is Mike Brooks. I'm your host, and today I'm joined by Mike Schmidtmann. I'm really excited for this. I love bringing on guests to the show. We've had some amazing guests, but what I love most is bringing on guests who are sales experts, and Mike is that times 12 here. Mike I'm going to read a quick bio, Mike, and then I'm going to ask you to fill in details here. Mike has led information technology sales teams for over 20 years, founded and built a $30 million telecommunications business from scratch, and now works with IT solution providers across America and on sales recruiting, new business development, and profit growth. For the last 10 years, Mike's produced the award-winning Transformers webinar. That's the number 4, MERS, Transformers series on IT sales and management. He contributes content over on IT channel publications and is a frequent public speaker and business and sales topics. He lives on a farm in Northern Virginia with his family and assorted horses, alpacas, goats, and dogs. And Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. You live, I don't know how many miles it is, but you probably know where Winchester, Virginia is.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure.
It looks like it's close, but that, I can't tell from the map. My brother-in-law lives there, so I go down there all the time. So we'll have to meet sometime in person. So Mike, fill in some blanks for me if I missed anything with my introduction of you here.
No, you didn't, Mike. But thanks for having me here, and let's talk about why I'm here. You're here to help partners grow their business, and that's kind of what I do too. I worked for maybe 20 years for other people and other companies until I realized I don't take direction well. So now I'm a sole practitioner. I work for myself, but I do what I love best, which is helping companies realize their potential. And what I see again and again and again is that we all work at a tiny fraction of our capability. And the reason I say that is I can see people in similar markets selling similar services, and there's a huge difference in their effectiveness. And so some people are just getting by. Some people are, you might say, making a good living. And there are people who just killing it right now. They're like Scrooge McDuck diving into piles of gold coins. It's that kind of business. And some people are doing incredibly well right now. And what's the difference? Is it work ethic? Is it skill? Is it knowledge? Is it what? And that's the key that I'm always trying to unlock. And so when I work with people, just like your partners themselves, they're looking for the key. What can we do to grow our business? What can we do to realize that we're seeing, Mike, that the top end really has no limit at all? I mean, I just got off the phone that this maybe 2 hours ago with a guy out in Denver, and he can't onboard all the business he's getting right now. And I'm not saying a lot of partners are like that, but this is a great time to be in the IT business. It's booming right now.
It really is. All the reports that we hear internally from folks who are in the know in the channel, you're just basically agreeing with what we're hearing out there from a lot of the industry experts, that this is like the best time to be in IT. Everybody gets it. Your clients no longer have to be talked into why they need cybersecurity. So, it's just a great time.
Mm-hmm.
But
it is, well, kind of like as Charles Dickens said, though, it's the best of times, it's the worst of times. It's not great for everybody. It's great for people who are ready to take advantage of the market conditions. And you're right. So good.
Yeah. And here's the thing is, if you can't sell, you're not going to reap the benefits. And that's the deal. It's not, it's a great time, but if you're running an IT department, company, you're your own IT company. A lot of IT companies out there are their own sales force, right? They don't have a sales team. They're doing it. It's the owner who comes in. They're usually very technical. They know their business, but they don't know how to sell, and they admittedly don't know how to sell. It's almost alarming how many MSPs will tell me, come to us and they say, I suck at selling. I can't sell. I don't know how to, need help. And if you can't do it,
they're successful, Mike, to a point. I think Paul Dipple at Service Leadership says most MSPs will get to 1 million, but only 10% get above 2 million. And of course, I'm kind of more interested in people who are trying to get above 10 million or 50 million or 100 million. But the point is, there are certain points that people kind of hit a ceiling. And what causes that? So the owner-led sales, let's talk about that first, because that's probably the most common. And the reason that they get to 1 million so easily is because they're good at what they do. They're hardworking. They know their business. Customers like them, and they grow by word of mouth, and they grow organically. The problem is once you get to a certain point, and that point's usually about 2 million. There's only so much word of mouth will get you as a business. But the reason they're successful, it's a business sale. I mean, IT is really not a technical sale. It's a business sale. And because they're owner led, they understand payroll and profit and loss and cost of goods and taxes and compliance. They get that, so they can relate to their customers. Whereas a lot of salespeople can't. They've never really run a company, had to meet payroll. I say my MBA came when I got out of college, Mike. My brother and I bought a bar up in Maine, and so I call that my MBA of sales. But I learned that my MBA of business was running a bar and making payroll, taxes, compliance, marketing, everything. You learn it right there. But that's why the owners do so well. But you're right; they reach a point where they can't go. So what do we have to do to get them the next step? And that's where I kind of come in, is how do we get a bunch of mini-me's in a company? So you get the owner who knows business, can convey it, is trustworthy. How do we get people to deliver that same message? And then that's the next step. And then once you get to maybe 10 million, now you get a new set of problems. And then you go to 20, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But kind of coming back to the premise of your session today, how do we make 2022 the best year ever? And I really feel, one, we have to stop kind of staring at our navel and saying, well, times are tough and there's competition and et cetera. No, it's great. The mindset has to be, this is the best time ever to be in IT sales, and recognize that. And if you're not getting your big share, then you can do something about that. And what you can do is get better at what you do and realize that potential. And so some people are happy with, say 30, 40,000 monthly recurring revenue a year. I know people doing 100. I know people doing 200,000, numbers that were unthinkable years ago. How do they do it? They're people just like you and me, Mike. So anyway, there's certain things, but we can kind of go into that if you want. But what does it take for you to become that kind of person with that kind of results and that kind of income?
Yeah, absolutely. And for those watching live, so we record this podcast live. If you are watching on any of the channels here, you should be able to comment, and we can see them. If you if you're, I think if you're on StreamYard, if you go to, I should know this, but if you go to StreamYard.com and you register, you can upload like a logo or connect your social media, and then you'll show up in a certain way on the comments, so we can show your comments on the screen. Anyway, a reason for people who listen to the podcast to come live, be able to ask questions. So ask us anything. I'll show the questions to Mike and share with you. But where I thought maybe we'd start, and we can go anywhere you want, because I brought you on because you came to me through Todd Billier from IT by Design, who is amazing. He's been on the show, knows sales really, really good, and he spoke very, very highly of you. But then I found out a lot of our audit clients actually use you, and they're really actually very successful audit clients. So you start putting 2 + 2 together and going, okay, this guy knows what he's doing, working with some really successful folks. So I'm gonna let you kind of drive things here, but I'm gonna pre-frame this because I just want you to tell us everything. I want you to tell us all the secrets in like the 30-40 minutes we have. So I want to kind of set the table, and I thought we'd talk about, driving sales is really, really important. And there's some common, we talked about this, and there's like 3 common problems that you had shared with me. And I thought those were great talking points to kind of launch off of.
Right. What I see again and again, Mike, you might say the 3 big ones is, one is people don't qualify an opportunity well enough. In other words, think of a dartboard, and you've got the bullseye in the middle. That's your ideal perfect client, the right size, the right level of complexity. Then you've got the next ring, which is maybe not quite your ideal client. They're either too big or too small, or they're needy or whatever. And then you go in the outside rings. So the unsuccessful people spend a lot of time on the outside rings, you might say. They chase bad business, what some people call chasing garbage trucks. Even if you get it, you don't want it. They're bad customers. So the number one is you qualify it and make sure, are they your target size? Do they interact well with you? Do they let you do your job? Do they trust you? Are they good to work with? That's number one. Number two, are you differentiating yourself from everybody else? There are thousands of MSPs, and all somebody has to do is just to Google, and they're going to get 10 in every marketplace or more. And then now with cloud, you can do it remotely. You could be getting somebody from California if you're near New York, or or Calgary or Singapore, who knows. So the point is, you have a lot more competition, and if you don't differentiate yourself from other people, you'll get lost in the shuffle quickly. And I do what I call trying to put yourself in the Goldilocks zone. The Goldilocks zone is you're not too big, you're not too small, you're just right. So if you have your right target client and you're in the Goldilocks zone, you're the perfect fit for them. So you have to differentiate yourself from the people who are bigger and more bureaucratic, and the people who are smaller, maybe 2 guys in a truck who don't have the tools, don't have the monitoring, don't have the resources, don't have the expertise. So you position yourself as the ideal one. And then you have to really dig in and understand the customer needs and care abouts. And that's where your tool is so helpful. I'll give you an example. I work with a client in Florida, and the first thing I asked for is, I said, can I see a copy of your proposal? And it was a beautiful, gorgeous proposal, 60 pages, color, charts, graphs, everything. There was nothing about that proposal that said anything about the customer at all. It was all about how wonderful they are. I said, you're just like beating your chest like a gorilla about how wonderful you are. There's nothing about the customer in here. I said, you need to make your proposal customer centric. And to be able to, I said, what's the difference between this proposal that you send to this person and to somebody else? He says, the only thing we change is the price. It's the same 60-page proposal everybody gets. I said, no, you need to make it about the customer, not about you. And so the only way to do that is to understand the customers as well. So those are I think the big three. Do you qualify? Do you differentiate? Do you really understand customer needs at a deep level to that point? So then as a doctor, the proper diagnosis is half the cure. Once you understand at a deep level how the customer is wired and what they do, now you can make a presentation and make a difference. And I'll just say, this one customer I work with, in a way, that the pandemic was a blessing, because once the pandemic hit, everything stopped, and they had like no appointments for weeks. And not much a sales guy like me can do. If you can't talk to a customer, not much I can do to help you. So I said, let's double down and train, and let's go into and let's work on our core skills. Let's use this time to our advantage to get better. And so every day we would do role plays and training, et cetera, on the basics of sales and building and differentiating and all these things. And that's where your tool came in. And I'm just going to give a shout out to the tool that you have, because it's amazing. One of the things that, Mike, that salespeople don't do nearly as well as they should, they don't make a compelling presentation when they're talking to a customer. So one, as we mentioned, you've got to demonstrate to them that you understand their business at a core level. You get who they are. But secondly, you have to explain your differentiation to them in a way that they understand. And most salespeople do, again, what I call the big three. We get the best product, we get the best price, we get the best people. Boom, boom, boom. The problem is everybody says the same thing. So this customer talks to 5 MSPs, and 5 people say, I've got the best product, we got the best people, we got the best prices. And they all sound alike. How do you differentiate yourself? Well, every study of communication has demonstrated, without exception, that the best way to be memorable is to say something, show a visual along with it together. Boom, simple as that. And your tool is perfect for that because it's visual. It shows step by step. It demonstrates that you understand who they are, because you can't complete this audit without having probed at a very deep level who the customer is, what they care about, what the status is. You get the red, green, orange, or yellow all set up, and then talking point again and again. And I wish, Mike, I could get more salespeople to give a visual presentation like this. But the tool you have works great. So we implemented it. This became a part of every presentation. So every customer got this once we'd done the discovery, and their close rate went beforehand in 2018, 2019, their close rate was about 20%. So out of 5 proposals, they'd win 1. Wow. Now their proposal rate, in fact, the owner just texted me, a big thumbs up. They had their best year ever already. They're winning 60% of their proposals, 60%. And why is that? Because they have a process. They execute it step. And your tool, and again, you did not ask me to say this. I'm doing this because I really deep down believe it's a great selling tool. And if you embrace it and use it, it'll make a dramatic impact on your close rates, and your customer will understand what makes you different, what makes you better. And it's a whole better experience, top to bottom.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And I didn't expect you to do that. And I'm not going to stop you, of course. But yeah, just quite frankly, by doing that presentation like that, you are different than you have differentiated yourself, because unfortunately most technology folks come in with either no presentation at all. They present off the quote, or they use a canned proposal tool. And we're not a proposal tool, right? We're a sales presentation tool. There's a difference. Like those proposals, I don't want to name any, they're not really our competitors, but there's proposal tools out there that you generate, and it's not really what we are, and you nailed it. You're giving me great talking points here. This is great coaching for me, because
that's the essence of sales. It's not what you do, it's what the customer gets, and it's perception's reality. If they understand, these people understand who I am, they understand what I need, they understand how to get me there. They're looking, they've got a business to run. And if you can take this off their plate and say, look, let us handle your IT. We're going to do it better, faster, easier than you can. You focus on growing your business. And we're business people too, but it's a great kind of synergy that way. But the main point is there's so much more available to the people on this call than they're getting now. I mean, if this company in Florida can triple the close rate off a pretty good baseline, and their average sale was maybe 2,000, 2,500 MRR per sale. So tripling it, triples your sales in a year. What would that mean to your company if you could double or triple on the same number of prospects? You don't have to increase your marketing. You just have to do a better job of reeling them in, and you do it. And I think the customers are better customers too. I think
absolutely.
If you've done your selling right, your onboarding is half done. Customers have good expectations. They're not expecting something from you can't deliver. And you're going to have a happier customer with longer retention.
Can you talk about you said their close rate was at 20% and it went to 60%. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about that a little bit, because there's different kinds of close rates, right? Like if you're the lowest priced guy, you're probably going to have a higher close rate. If you're getting tons and tons of referrals, you're probably going to get higher close rate. So what do you see are averages or things that, how do you tell the difference between somebody who's getting a high close rate that's great, and somebody that's getting because somebody may look at that, go, oh, 60%, I close 100%, but maybe they only go on one sales call a month and it's a hot referral.
There's a friend of mine in the sales business named Gil Cargill, and maybe some of you have seen Gil at conferences. He's an old IBM guy. I met him maybe 30 years ago, and he's saying the same things now he was 30 years ago. But he's got great one-liners, and one of his one-liners is, if you're closing 100% of your proposals, you're not a salesperson, you're an order taker.
It's great.
And so that's so true. And I do think there's a Goldilocks zone for sales too, Mike. And that Goldilocks zone, I think, should be about in the 40% range. So I really do think 60% is too high. Why would I say that? Why wouldn't I want it to be 100%? Well, 100%, you're either leaving money on the table, you're selling for too low, or you're not getting out of your comfort zone. And if you're not stretching yourself, to answer your question, I actually had a talk with some Salesforce people one time, and if anybody on earth knows what close rates are, Salesforce does, because they've got this metadata from millions of companies putting it in, and they know when the opportunities go in, they know when they close, and they know if it's closed out won or closed out lost or no decision. But they said, I can't give you that information. I was dying. He knew it. He just couldn't share it. But if I had to guess, I would say in the MSP world, I think the close rates are probably about 20%. That's probably about. Now, that doesn't mean you lose 4 out of 5. I think you win one, you maybe lose 1 or 2, and then a couple of people don't do anything. And so that's kind of it. There's a lot of no decisions out there. And so one of the things that we did in this Florida example was a lot of what I call a straw man. If we can do this, can you do that? So a quid pro quo. If we can do this, can you do that? If we can show you this makes financial sense, can you move forward by the end of the year? If we're able to show you that we can do this cheaper than you can by doing it internally, would you be open to outsourcing it? That's the first question, is if. And I love that question, always posing if. If we could do this, can you do that? And you get a customer to say, well, yeah, if you can do it more effectively than I can, if you can show us more skill sets, if you can show cost savings and economies for me, allowing me to free up resources to grow my business, I'd consider it. Okay, well, if you consider it, what would you need to see in order to feel comfortable moving forward? Well, it would need to do this, this, and this. So what you do is you go down a track of persuasion. You're turning the super tanker 1 degree at a time. You're not going to turn a 90-degree turn right away. You're not going to move a customer from, I don't know who you are, to, oh yeah, we better do business. It takes 1%, 1%, 1%, 1%, 1%. But the way you start is the if we can do this, if we can jump through hoops, if we can leap tall buildings in a single bound, would you be open to doing it? Yeah. Okay. Well, what will you need to see? So I guess getting back, I hope circling back to your original question, it's in there somewhere. It's in there somewhere. But that conversation you have with a customer is part of that qualification process. Do they see value? Do they appreciate? Are they the bullseye in that dartboard? And if they're not, if they're saying, look, Charlie, I'm getting 5 quotes. If you want to do it, good. If you don't. If I can't reach that guy, I don't waste the time. So part of the reason this company improved their close rate so much was they flushed out maybe a third of the bad prospects. They didn't chase garbage trucks anymore. They just didn't pursue it. Or how many times have we seen a customer who demands something that you can't really do? I want 7x24. I need to have Spanish language people on call at all times. I need you to whatever. They may make kind of semi-ridiculous requests or something that's not for you. And you flush them out right up front. So by weeding out the bad prospects, by doing a better job of understanding customers and then presenting better, boom, boom, boom. Now you've gone from 20% to 60. But to just kind of put a bow on your original question, what's the industry average? I'd say 20% industry average, and anything above 60, I think, is too high. That means you're, again, not venturing out or you're underselling your services.
That's great. So I think it goes without saying, a couple takeaways for me is, number one, you better be tracking your sales rates. And it's easy for an MSP because you're not dealing with thousands of sales presentations each month. You're dealing with a handful, but track those deeply. So understand what is, is this a referral? Is this a good quality, maybe grade that lead, type of lead, like that. Tracking is really important. So you can kind of assess and step back and go, our prices are too low, or we're going after bad leads, or we're talking to too many referrals. We need to up our marketing. So
Yep.
Very interesting. I got like tons and tons of questions for you, Mike. I don't even know where to start. So let's I guess let's talk a little bit about the questions, because you've mentioned that a few times, asking good questions and that discovery process. We call it fact finding with our tool. Our users print out this tool called a fact finder, and that's their it goes along with the way the presentation is going to look. So it's coaching them through the discovery to ask the questions. What are the common, this is a 2-part question. Like, what are the common mistakes you see IT providers make during discovery, during fact finding, and what should they be doing?
Right. That's a great question. And I think that's where the sales are won and lost, or in the trenches of, that's exactly it, Mike, right there. And one of the red flags of a bad customer is if they don't let you do your due diligence, if they won't let you dig in. I like to ask a salesperson, if you're asking questions, and I actually believe in a walkthrough too. And I know in this pandemic, it's harder to do, but I want to walk around and see things. I want to see what the switch room looks like. I want to see what kind of cabling they have. I want to get a sense for the people. Are they walking around quickly? Are they friendly? What's the corporate culture like? And of course, a big thing too is when people are giving you a tour, they're proud of their facility and they're kind of strutting their chest out, and they're the big, so you're building a rapport that you can't do. A lot of salespeople have kind of a misunderstanding, Mike, and I think you'd agree with this. They think the purpose of discovery is giving an accurate quote. I'm here to count desktops. I'm here to count servers. I'm here to count remote users. I'm here to count so I can give a quote. That's not true at all. That's a tiny piece of it. But the biggest part are those other things. I always like to find something that the customer doesn't know that they don't know. And so, so Donald Rumsfeld said about Iraq, you've got, what you know what you don't know. But what I'm afraid of is I don't know what I don't know. And quite frankly, customers don't know what they don't know. And so we set it up that way. Say, look, we're here to help you understand what you've got, how it works, where it stands. We're going to give you a full report at the end. We need to do this. If you don't allow us to do this, we can't proceed. It's like going to a doctor and saying, hey, doc, I'm in a hurry. Give me some pills. Doctor says, no, I'm going to do the analysis and the survey. I'm not a pill jockey here. I'm here to solve your real problem. And you say, well, look, I'm in a hurry. Just give me, I know I know what it is. Just give me some penicillin or give me some. No, if a doctor does that, they're a quack. And,
right.
and
How upset, like think about it on the other side, like how like would you feel about a doctor where you walked in and the first thing they
right.
said is take these
Yeah, exactly.
without asking you a question?
Yeah. And quite frankly, I mean, I had a sale one time and this was National Geographic. So this is a telecom sale back in 2001. And I walked in, they had 4 buildings, 2,000 endpoints. And Mike, I knew within 5 minutes of entering that office what the price was going to be. I knew it. And they would say, Mike, we want voice over IP. Can you give us a quote? I'd love to, but I need to first talk to your facilities manager. And then I talk to the facilities manager. I need to talk to your implementation team. I need to talk to your art department. I need to talk to your call center. I need to talk to your executive team. I need to talk. Now, again, I knew within 5 minutes what the price was going to be. Why did I do it? I didn't do it because I was doing it to get the price. I was doing it to find things that the customer didn't know that they didn't know. And so we found out all sorts of information about that account that we could only do by walking around and asking questions of people, and simple questions. What do you like about what you've got? What's one thing you'd improve? If you had a magic wand, what would you do? And then shut up and let them tell you. And they pour their guts out. And the key to that sale turned out to be the art department. The art department said, we're all on Macs. Everybody else is on PCs. Nobody loves us. And we're National Geographic. And we've got all these beautiful pictures and nobody loves, nobody cares. Whatever we do, we want it to work with the Macintosh. And that was the key to the sale for us. So we competed with maybe 5 other people. We were the only people that understood the key to that sale was it had to interact with Macintoshes and it had to satisfy the art department. That was the key. Nobody else got it. Everybody else says, okay, you got 2,200 stations, 4 buildings, here's your price. But we understood why they needed it. And so that's why that digging is not just getting an accurate count, Mike. It's getting the people relationships and uncovering what they don't know that they don't know. And your tool is perfect for that too, because it forces you to ask those questions.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. There's an important thing with technology, and the funny thing is I started my sales and marketing career by owning a business as well, and it's amazing the level of it is like getting an MBA when you have to do that all. It's a great learning ground. This is like any industry has this same problem. If you just look at the surface information in technology, it's really going in, the technology, they have a lot of tools. They can go in, they can scan networks, they can run reports, they can do a lot of things with automated tools that sometimes can throw off a false positive or a false negative. And if you don't dive in deep and understand the business impact, that technical scan or whatever may not match what they need, right? Like, and the way I like to look at it is like a doctor. If you and me, who are closer in age than an 18-year-old, go to the doctor and we get our cholesterol taken and we come back with the exact same high cholesterol number, the doctor's going to treat you differently, me differently, and the 18-year-old differently based on our age, based on our family history, based on all the information they know that they can't get by doing anything other than asking us and talking to us. And you miss that if you don't, if you don't do your homework. So how do they? Let's talk about action here. Like what are some techniques that you? Because I think that's hard for IT guys, especially like it's quite frankly, it's even hard for sales guys, professionals to go in and ask questions and then dig deeper and really get people talking and opening up, right? Because sales conversations can be adversarial, right? They know that we're in there asking questions that they don't necessarily want to answer. So maybe, I know that's a big
really, I don't question. Know. I never felt that way. I feel I'm a customer advocate. I want what's best for them. As a matter of fact, I made a huge sale years ago, and I made a huge sale because I walked away from a small sale with them that I could have had. And so this is a situation. This is one of the government contractors in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, outside of Washington, D.C. And I was selling telephone systems at the time, and they gave me a purchase order for $70,000. And I said, we've come out with something that's better and it's cheaper. And I think you should go with this. It was $30,000 instead. And he says, no, you're just saying that. You're a sales guy. We don't trust you. And we know this works. We've been using it for years. I say, well, in technology, you really don't want to put old stuff in. I know your 57 Chevy runs great, but guess what? It doesn't have Bluetooth. It doesn't have GPS. It doesn't have anti-lock brakes. Doesn't have airbags. I know the 57 Chevy is great, but you need to do this. And we went back and forth for weeks on this, and I would not process that $70,000 sale because I knew deep down in my DNA that it wasn't right for them. And I finally brought an engineer, and they didn't believe me. I didn't expect him to. I said, let me bring an engineer in. And they talked engineer to engineer. And they said, finally, good. But guess what? When that time came for that big sale to come in, they wanted the one who cared about them and wanted to do the right thing. And they knew that's what we were because we walked away from a sale we could have made. And so to answer your question, Mike, when I'm in with a customer, I think they pick up, just like dogs pick up your vibe, right? They can kind of tell, are you friendly? Are you aggressive or whatever? I've actually never had a customer, sometimes they'll start off very suspicious, and that's a hard thing to sell. I say, look, I'm here to make sure we don't miss anything important to you. I'm going to give you the results. You can do with them what you want, but I'm here to serve your interests. You got to let me do my job. And if you present that in an authentic, earnest way, I think I never had all these years, I never had a problem with somebody doing that, but that's what lets me do my job, if that makes sense. And so I do it, but I haven't had the pushback that you indicate. If they really sense that you're doing it for them, not for yourself, I've always been able to do it.
Well, let me ask you a different question then, to kind of go off of that. What do you see as like the biggest hurdle that IT, either salespeople or sales, whoever's doing the sales role in an IT program, what are their biggest hurdles? What's the biggest challenge in that process? Is it asking questions? When they come to you, like a client comes to you and says, I want help, are they, hey, we're terrible at discovery, we're terrible at presenting, we're terrible at whatever, or we need help with whatever? Like, what's the biggest challenge they typically have?
Well, it's a great question. And I'd say the answer is right in front of us, Mike. There are no secrets. I don't have a silver bullet. So you're a New England guy, and let me use the example of the New England Patriots. Okay. Now you may love them, you may hate them, and probably 90% of the people in this call hate them. I get that, but you've got to respect that somehow they managed to field a very competitive team year after year after year. Even without Tom Brady now, they're doing it. They just won the other night.
Crazy.
Nothing they do, there's not a single play that they run that other people can't run. It's the execution of it. And so when you ask me what's the difference between a normal MSP, a good MSP, and a superstar MSP, it's the New England Patriots. It's the execution. So it's not one thing. It's they have better executive conversations. They qualify better. They do a better discovery. They present better what they've found. They're more compelling. They have better references. But it's none of these factors is maybe more than 2 or 3%. But guess what? If you do 2 or 3, it ends up to 60, 70% delta between you and average person up and down the street. So I think it's execution, all these little things. There's not a single magic bullet. If there were, we'd shoot it, but it's a bunch of little things, don't you think?
Absolutely. That's perfect. Great answer. I agree with 100%.
Now, where are you in the Patriots spectrum?
I'm a Patriots fan. I mean, I have to be. I
right.
jumped on the bandwagon a long time ago. Yeah, I always liked the Patriots because of the proximity, and I always hated the New York football teams.
There we go.
So what else are you going to do? I'm a New York.
By the way, they call it. There's a line in Connecticut, so I don't know how far it is from you. They call it the Munson-Nixon line. It's for Thurman Munson and Trot Nixon, and they actually have Facebook likes, and they see and there's a line. They call it the Munson-Nixon line, where Connecticut turns from Yankees to Red Sox, and I'm sure they do from Giants to Patriots as well. So
Yeah, I'm in Western Connecticut, which is the New York side. So it's most New York. Most of it's New York. Football's a different story. Football's a weird one. You have Dallas Cowboys fans. You have all.
Yeah.
I think football's not necessarily a proximity thing,
Mhm.
but the Patriots got so good. I just figured I'm gonna
There
follow
you
the
go,
winning
man.
team
There you
because
go.
why not? I had no dog in the hunt.
Well, your Sundays are more enjoyable than mine. I'm in the Washington D.C. area, so I've suffered for
Yeah.
many
No, I
years.
used to be a Washington football fan
Uh-huh.
years and years ago when that before they sold it. That I thought that family was just the greatest. It was just such a great
Mhm.
ownership and great coaches, and I really loved them in the '80s. But
Mhm.
then they got bought, and I stopped following them. I'm mostly a baseball fan. I'm a Mets fan,
Okay,
so
good.
I'm on. See, it's usually Yankees, Red Sox around here, but there's a couple of us Mets fans kicking around. So.
Okay, there you go. Good.
So, Mike, this has been great. How do we get people to get in touch with you? I'm going to put up here your LinkedIn so people can follow you on LinkedIn,
That's
but
the
please
easiest
tell us.
way. There's not a lot of Mike Schmidtmans in LinkedIn, so if you do Mike Schmidtmann, I think you got one or two maybe in the whole
Right.
country.
What
I'm
website should
happy.
people go to learn more about what you
Oh, it's at
do?
MikeSchmidtmann.com. And quite frankly, you can kind of tell, Mike, I love talking about this stuff. And so anybody's welcome to give me a holler or contact. And no problem just having an initial conversation about what's going on, how's it work. And probably 2/3 of the time, again, uh, with the dartboard, I'm not the right person for them for whatever reason. And I'll refer somebody else. But I always want what's best for the MSP. I love the community. Um, and I really resonate. I was a small business person myself, just like you were, and I understand who they are, what they do, the stresses that they have, and I want them to have what they deserve to have. I want them to have a robust account base. I want them to have something to sell at the end for all their decades of hard work and to get a nice cash buyout. I want them to have happy customers, and I want them to be sold the right way. And if that happens, it's a win-win-win for everybody. Unfortunately, too many MSPs have nothing to sell at the end. Their business is a train wreck. It's kind of run with on the back of napkins and things. And then predators circle the business and pick it apart for no money. I want them to cash out, have robust profits that they deserve for all the hard work, and deliver great value to the customers. If they do that, then everybody's happy. That's what we want.
Love it. Well, on that note, that was great. This was an awesome podcast episode. I've got more stuff for you, so you hang out, Mike.
Okay.
I got more plans for you, my friend.
Okay.
You bring in the heat today, and this was a great episode.
Okay.
And I do want to thank everybody for listening to the podcast as always. And until next time on the Elevating IT podcast, keep on elevating IT. All right, we're clear.
Well, I'm
Leave it,
disappointed we didn't get any questions, comments in there. So
we've still got a few people hanging out, so let's throw some questions. If you we got a few more minutes, we'll stick around for a couple more minutes. If anybody's got questions, like sometimes when you don't get questions, that's usually a sign that you answered them before you came. That's what there's always a few. Yeah. So we'll give people a couple moments here before we sign off.
I think,
oh no, that's not right. There's something weird about my something weird going on here. I wonder if I have questions and they're just not coming through. Could be having technical difficulties with the question. So if you asked a question, because I think I got a little error situation going here. So if you asked a question on the on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, those are the three ways you can listen to the show, watch the show live. And we didn't answer you, it's because we're not seeing them. It's not feeding in for some reason. So I think actually, Mike, I think we've got some questions. If we do, I'll send them to you and I'll send who asked them. But that will show up there. So I want to thank everybody. I'm going to end the live broadcast, and Mike, don't go anywhere.
I have one final thought. a friend of mine said one time, Apple's slogan should be "Hurry up and buy before the price goes down." And people line up at the Apple store to pay full list price. And the perception of value is such an emotional and irrational kind of judgment. And you and I both got into IT. I remember when I was selling personal computers, and they're a fraction of what today's smartwatch has for computing power. And they cost $6,000, $7,000 back when I started. And the same with phone systems. Again, I was in telecom for years, and it used to be $1,000 an endpoint. So when I went into National Geographic, okay, 2,000 endpoints, just do the math. That's how I knew within 5 minutes what the price was going to be, because we just say $1,000 an endpoint. But everything goes down in price in the IT world, and you get more. And we think customers know what the prices are and are grinding us down. And some of that's true, but the fact is customers have no idea what the price is and the value. You can't put a price on some of the stuff that we sell. Oh. It's attitude, and it starts with our own head. It starts in our own mindset, is that we're delivering a solid service. Customers need it desperately, and they may not know that they need it. And it's our job to help them get what they need. And if we do that, we should feel proud of what we do. We're in a great business that helps our customers run their businesses better. They need to do it.
Great. Awesome way to part. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everybody, for listening.